And today's session, we're really focusing on the production advantages Grenada has to offer to our global market. We are very unique here. We have a lot of rich stories that I think is untapped. This is a very creative nation and a very, in so many different ways, from the music to the theaters to the cultural dances and the big drums and those celebrations that take place here. And it's about time that we need to see how these things are digitalized in a way that can now be exported to a global market. And in order to do so, we need investments and we need capital to support the growth of the industry. So that's why this panel today is so important.
We are already looking forward to your presentation to inform us and to inform the viewers online.
So without any further ado, we invite Mr. Mathew to the stage. Thomas Mathew is the Chief Cultural Officer in the Ministry of Sports, Culture and the Arts, Cooperative and Fisheries, with responsibility for the implementation and planning for government policies related to the culture and related matters. The responsibilities involve preparing government budgetary allocations, management of human resources, operation and supervision of program implementation and execution. Welcome to the 1261 Film Festival stage.
Thank you. The identification of this particular industry as an economic driver was highlighted a very long time ago. Actually, in 2001, government had been actually the Ministry of Tourism actually had indicated and made submission for government to look at a film policy, a policy for film, because they saw the magnitude and the interest in our location. That was sometime around June. That submission was sometime around June 25th, 2001. And basically on the policy, because no one was really in the forefront on understanding this particular industry much, there were 4 tenets that they were asking government to look at. And that would have been comparatively with other regions, other film locations, commissions, and so 4 basic tenets that they wanted to look at to create that facility to encourage local and overseas film. There were concession needs, procedures, conditions and terms for the acceptance of businesses in that light, and the general approval mechanism. In December 2002, government agreed that, okay, you think it's time to have a film commission office. And as such, the Board of Tourism, then the Board of Tourism, Ministry of Tourism, and I do believe our dear friends here, GIDC, began looking into creating a sort of structure for a commission and what kind of budget we're going to look at. Let me fast forward that in around 2013, the ministry saw the need to sort of push this a little more. And so government had agreed for us to set up interim film commission and to re-engage discussions on the legislative framework for the industry of film and for the setup of the film commission. Some of the things that were featured and highlighted were basically, let me just pull that, the same procedures that had been discussed earlier, but they were looking not only at the concessions, but the composition of the board, the composition and the scope of work, the incentives for the film industry, regulations for related stakeholders in the industry. Sorry. And information on the marketing of cinematic works so that we could get Grenadian filmmakers on the chart. So I just wanted to mention that there has been some process. In 2015. There was the establishment of an interim film commission to advise government and to engage the players in the industry on giving advice. They pulled from, and at the same time, beside giving advice, to give some sort of channel for those persons who had already shown interest in the location and were willing to come to Grenada to do some work as is. So there, for those of us who know, there are several interventions in terms of films that happened here. For the film White Squall, I don't know if people are aware of that film. That film was done here. A lot of shooting was done on the Carnage, and the Board of Tourism and a number of other entities facilitated permission, coordinated with police, traffic, skilled labor, and so we felt that as fast as there was a demand for the use of the location, we needed to put something interim, and at the same time engage with the legal fraternity, particularly the Ministry of Legal Affairs, asking them to help with that legislative framework. I must say that at this juncture, we still have not had that framework developed sufficiently to re-engage our players. We had advanced so very well that at one point in time, we had located a grant funding from the government of Venezuela to start this commission to the tune of $100,000. And then we had the issue with Venezuela, where they were unable to, their economic issue and their political crisis. But I just wanted to mention that there has been an awareness, a concern for us to develop this particular creative industry, and not only from an internal base. Sorry about that, people. My phone's going off crazy. But from government's point of view and from CARICOM's point of view, there has been negotiations since 2005 on issues related to the development of the film industry. And those of you who are aware of the EDF, the 13th EDF engaged and looked at the possibility of facilitating grant funding for both persons in the CARICOM block with the EU to have co-productions. It was a valiant effort, but what we found is that we were at a serious disadvantage simply because the co-production dealt with people who were very versed in the industry. And we could co-produce with a producer out of Europe, but there was, you have to give a history of doing a similar project with a minimum budget of about 300,000 euros. And as you could appreciate, no one in the Caribbean that I know of has been able to do that. But at the same time, through CDB, and I think one of our presenters mentioned that there is a fund that we have set up, and that has been negotiated through CARICOM and the directors of culture throughout CARICOM to have a fund set up to assist in the development, granting of these creative industries. So I'm just saying all this to say that maybe we, as a government entity, we haven't led in the forefront simply because, quote unquote, we don't have the expertise to dictate or relate to the industry as clearly as someone, as yourself, my friend Meschida. But we have made some movements in that direction. And I think this forum, I would make the appeal to your friends and associates in this particular field for that unity call. Let's sit down, discuss what was already done, what needs to be done. I really thought in 2015, we were going to have some kind of legislative framework to present to my colleagues in the field. But like again, I said, we didn't have that. At that time, we were unable to get a counterpart ministry to really work on it. They gave us someone who came in through Canada, but had to leave prematurely before he was able to sit and do that. But I think we need to engage. And I do know that our ministry in 2017 had written to Legal Affairs asking, well, if you can't do it, let us work through, probably do a project for UNESCO. But that, again, did not reach a fruition. But I think that the what we need to necessitate here is that we've never given up on this. Never given up on this creative industry process, particularly film festival. I know people are critical of what is being done, but we do want to always keep it to the forefront. And I can guarantee you from the Ministry of Culture's point of view, we are in full support. I think our strength may be in sort of helping you channel through the administrative process of government, be your lead on that, but we really would like to work with you on things like that. Just one more thing that was mentioned, and they talk about training. We've envisioned that this training process is important, and it's highly expensive for individuals to be part of that training process in throughout the world. But so we came up with an idea to begin with of why not start incubators working with our experts in the field of visual production. We actually began a process for music, audio, and now we are thinking that one of our greatest problems is space and equipment for training. We have recently developed 2 audio production studios that we know over the next 2 years, we'd like to engage with people in audiovisual. How can we adapt it to serve the purpose of both audio and visual productions? So I'm hoping we have already provided the space. There is some additional equipment that we would need to adapt for visual and film and editing. And so maybe this is a channel we can work with to start facilitating building human capital for the industry while we still work along the legislative process for support. So this would be the swing of my contribution. I know we're late, and again, I thank you for allowing me to participate and engage. I've been following since yesterday, and it's been extremely interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Mathew, for your presentation. And it really underpins the importance of establishing a film commission and also enacting policy and legislation to support the film industry in Grenada. Because the film commission would really, they would help with things as the database, as bringing persons together. They would help with things as training, as investment. So I think it's important, that is going to be, I think, an important part in really moving the process forward, in establishing the film commission that would really, really help with all the things we would have spoken about in both presentations, the one from GIDC and yourself.
For me personally, I truly enjoy the fact that we have key players on the same platform and the same podium speaking basically about this very same thing. Mr. Mathew is speaking about the policy aspect of it and the legislative aspect of it, which is going hand in hand with the investment side of it. And we recognize from a lot of the presentation, including what Mr. Mathew alluded to earlier, we cannot leave one without the next in order to strengthen and drive this industry forward. This question is directed to Mr. Mathew about the film commissioner. You mentioned that it was interim. The person in the audience would like to know what is the current status of the film commission and why is it only interim?
Thank you for the question. It is basically the idea of making it an interim commission. It is based on the fact that for a commission to work and have teeth, there must be legislative, there must be legislation, regulations on which the premise for them to operate, so that they become the go-to all in terms of things related to that particular industry. In the absence of this legislation, we found it imperative to have this committee, or the semblance of a committee, so that if there were needs from persons, it could be addressed through them. There are a number of persons who have been in contact with our ministry, been in contact with the Board of Tourism about coming in to do projects. And they consistently need assistance. Identify locations, identify persons, help us with bringing in equipment so that we get the concessions, help us with the police, help us with a number of things. So we felt that in the absence of legislation, we still needed an organization, a go-to organization that people can touch base with, and they can be a conduit for the practitioners in the field. So that's why at this juncture, I term it as an interim organization, and the organization has had some hiccups. There's no question about it. We've invited persons from different sectors that we felt were important for the job needed now. So like the police, Chamber of Commerce, media. But the traction, I think, because people don't understand the process of the industry, persons have not been very responsive to the formation of this interim committee at this time. But we are consistently looking at it, hoping that we could do a review. As you know, we, and I say we, as creatives, because I still consider myself a creative, are very temperamental.
Yes, I've worked alongside the interim commissioner, and it is very vital and very important for us to revisit in reestablishing the commissioner here in Grenada as we look forward to developing the sector more, and also as far as GIDC is concerned in aiding with the part of investment. Before we end this segment today, I would like to give each of you an opportunity to give one final statement before we leave.
Yeah, I would just probably leave a statement to say that collaboration beats competition, right? So I think if there's a way for us to work together, let's work together. Because I think that I do believe that we can achieve more together. You know what I mean? I think one of my colleagues actually said to me recently that teamwork makes the dream work. So what I would say is that, let's put a team together. Let's not see this as on the burden of GIDC or on the burden of Ministry of Culture, or GIDC. Let's see how we can, pull a team together, pull different people together in the same room to move the conversation forward.
And on that note, I would just leave this as Mr. Cumberbatch was echoing: working together works. So let's all of us work together. That is what's going to get us to the next level.
Tommy?
I'm game. I'm here, ready and willing to put my top and safety, according to my grandmother, to this process. But I'm always willing and ready, and I'm thankful for this forum now.
All of us are passionate about developing the sector here. This is a labor of true love for myself, and I have such an amazing team behind me who worked tirelessly and endlessly throughout the year. Regarding our sponsors and our supporters throughout the years, I mean, Aquarium Restaurant for allowing us to be present here today. Most importantly, UNESCO. I mean, UNESCO recognized our vision. You guys has been a real major support for us and allowing us to be here to make sure that this year's festival came on par by providing us with the necessary funding to do so. To all of the presenters who took the time out to just share their own expertise in helping us look at different ways to strengthen our institution and our sector here in Grenada. I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to them as well as the panelists who were present. So without further ado, I turned it over to Keisha to end this year's first annual Film and Television Industry Seminar, A Creative Future for Grenada.
Thank you, Meschida. Thank you. We had a very insightful 2 days. I mean, a lot of knowledge, a lot of resources for us all. And I really look forward to another panel like this next year with maybe another conversation where we would have moved past this and would have already established or, we are already collaborating and we are further along in establishing maybe a film commission in that sense. So Meschida, thank you. Thank you to our panelists. I really look forward to collaborating with all of you in the not too distant future.